What she said. She's magical, mystical, a powerful wonder girl.
Welcome back to What She Said. 5 Ontario women have allegedly been killed in acts of intimate partner or domestic violence in 2018. And it's only February. While that number is shocking, experts say it's not entirely unusual. Today we are joined by Corey Schneider, the founder of One Spark. And that is an organization which works with women who have left abusive situations and helps them identify their skills and establish businesses. Thanks for joining us today, Corey.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, as we mentioned, these deaths occurred in January, and they were allegedly caused by men in these women's lives. As someone who works to eliminate violence against women, do you feel that that number is unusual?
It's an interesting question because it's not unusual, we know statistically. So statistically, we know every 6 days in this country, a woman is killed by her intimate partner. So it actually follows the trend line fairly closely. But when you ask if it's unusual, I think what I find unusual, or at least deeply concerning about it, is when you unpack that statistic and you drill down into what the reasons are that we're seeing 5 deaths so early in the year, what does that mean? And I think it's unusual in the sense that in a country and in a province where we're so prosperous and we flourish in so many ways, the reasons women are unable to escape violence are lingering and deeply concerning. So, things like being able to have a sustainable livelihood, affordability of childcare so they can move forward from violence. Sometimes it's precarious employment or precarious immigration that's causing women to not be able to get out of violent situations. So the number itself doesn't shock me, but what surprises me is that we're still dealing with not really getting to sometimes the root of the issue of why women can't move forward from violent situations.
So is it primarily because they cannot, if they leave, they cannot support themselves and their children?
There's a lot of reasons. That is a big piece of it. Affordable housing, as we know, people talk all the time about affordable housing, but I think it goes beyond that. And with One Spark, one of the pieces we looked at was actually income sustainability. What happens when you're moving forward from violence? Sometimes your employment becomes precarious because you're trying to manage a job while rebuilding a life. So there's a lot of reasons that women are challenged to move forward.
So explain to us exactly what One Spark does.
So One Spark works with women who are moving forward from violence to help them start their own businesses. So essentially, it came out of I had been doing strategic consulting in the field for quite a long time and working with a number of shelters. And there were 2 things I really came to know. One is our shelter system in this province is at capacity. It's beyond capacity. So women are being turned away. And the question is, what happens to women who are turned away? What other alternatives do they have? But then the other issue is, what are the second stage supports when they're moving forward from being in the shelter? What helps them transition to sort of the longer term place that they're going? So One Spark looked at that and said, from an income perspective, what could we do to help women generate a sustainable income so they could move forward and afford the house and afford what they need for their children? And there's employment programs already in place, but we wanted to look at it from an entrepreneurship perspective. Could we help women to start businesses to generate that income as another alternative to trying to maintain ongoing employment when they're in such a tumultuous point in their life?
And why do you see that as a solution? Because normally we would think of entrepreneurship as being harder than just showing up at a job. As we've talked to an awful lot of entrepreneurs, it's a tough go.
It absolutely is, but I think we tried to reframe entrepreneurship to look at, do you have a skill that's marketable that you could generate income off of? So even if it's supplementing part-time work, just so you can get to the point where you're able to pay rent and afford food. So entrepreneurship can play a lot of different roles in a person's life. It doesn't have to be your full-time undertaking. But is there a role it could play to help women get to the point where they could afford what they need? The other reason we see it as a very viable solution, 2 actually. One is the childcare barrier. As an entrepreneur myself, part of what I found was my childcare costs went way down because I was often working with my children beside me, so I wasn't paying those costs. So sometimes that's that's an incentive to become an entrepreneur. But the other thing is, there was a study done in the U.S. that demonstrated the traits that women who are moving forward from violence demonstrate are very aligned with what we associate with a successful entrepreneur. So things like being able to read people, being able to deal with uncertainty, being resilient, being courageous. And this study showed this interesting parallel that there were things you develop when you have to deal with violence that actually lend themselves to entrepreneurship.
What was your aha moment where you said, I have to start this? Was there a person, a situation where you said enough is enough?
Definitely. I had done focus groups with women who were in shelters. And one of the messages they consistently gave was the hardest part of their journey was not going into the shelter, it was coming out of it, because those second stage supports just weren't there. What do I do now? I've been in a shelter where I've received great support and shelter and all the things I need, but now I need to move beyond. And when I heard that, I thought, what are those second stage supports? And how do I do something that isn't recreating a wheel that exists? There are employment programs. And then I looked at entrepreneurship in my own life and thought, if there's even the opportunity for 10, 20 women to move forward using the entrepreneurship model, I want to see if we can do that.
Well, 4 years after setting it up, 22 women of Ontario have come into the program. They're leaving with real businesses. And as you said, more importantly, the financial means to live violence-free. But the investment in each woman is only $4,000 and the use of a donated laptop.
That's right.
So how are you raising that? How are you getting the laptops? How are you finding the money?
We've had amazing supporters. I mean, it's really been people who see this as a very innovative approach and have said, I would be willing to invest out of my own pocket to see this move forward. It was started as a pilot program, and now we're looking at it as a sustainable, ongoing program, because we've seen the success. We've seen women start businesses and move forward from violent situations, supporting their children and living off the money they're making from their businesses. So, it's really just been people so generously putting their hands in their pocket and saying, I believe in this as a solution.
Can you tell us one story, maybe, of one woman?
Absolutely. So we have a woman in Strathroy who we've worked with, who she actually started a business to become a peer support worker. So she wanted to become a consultant for other women who are going through violence, because she had this amazing understanding of the systems they have to navigate. So she wanted to share that. So we've been working with her. She started a business. And beyond even just the financial part of it, to see the transition of belief in her own skills and her own talents, I mean, that's been as big a transition as any. And we actually, as One Spark, hired her, and she wrote an amazing report for us about how peer support can benefit our program. And she's just doing amazing work in the community.
So where are you based?
We're based out of Hamilton, but we do work, so we're considered a provincial organization. We do a lot of work right here in the GTA, but we also do work in London and Strathroy and Guelph and Sarnia. So we've got a bunch of different locations that we're supporting women, either one-on-one, but we're doing group programming here in Toronto as well.
And is this going to grow? Because this seems like a need that is unmet in many parts of the country, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I think we have something. I mean, we've seen the model in action. We know it works, and our goal is to have it grow. Absolutely. And someday the hope is that it's a national organization.
So how can people help? Who do you go to? How can we help?
Honestly, the big piece right now, like you said, it's $4,000 to put a woman through the program. So the big piece right now is for every woman we put through the program, we have to raise that $4,000. So people going to our website, which is one-spark.ca. There you can donate there. You can help to support women. If you have laptops, you can also contact us. We will take retiring laptops and repurpose them. Access to technology is a big piece. So if we can have those laptops so it can be used in a woman's business, we'd love that.
okay, I'm connecting you with my husband. Because he has a big tech company and they have lots of laptops.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
That's great. Now, we're going to have this up on our website and all across our social media. So thank you so much for telling us about this great organization.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
This is what she said, and we'll be right back.
Well, she said she's magical, mystical, or a powerful